This week, instead of having a session, I decided to incorporate Run Norwich into my training plan. It was already booked, and it's a great race. The atmosphere is incredible. There's usually about 8,000 people who turn up. This year, I think it was record numbers of about 8,500 people. But the problem is the course is awful. It's all flat and downhill for the first 5k, and then the second 5k is pretty much all uphill. And so last year I hated it. It was a really tough course. This year I felt a bit more confident going into it because I've done a lot of hill training and I felt decent, but also I've done 200 plus kilometers of cycling in the past 2 weeks, which is not something I'm used to. And so my legs are feeling it a lot. I've also done a lot of swimming, which is not something I've used to, and a fairly intense amount of running, but no more than I would normally do. I also haven't done many sessions. I say that, but I have done sessions in the past. I just never feel that confident going into it because I feel like I always could have done more sessions than I have actually done. Anyway, we get to the race. I wanted to try and hold about 37-minute pace, and it all started going wrong as soon as we got to the race. I said to my family yesterday that I want to leave. The latest I could leave is 8 a.m. The race was starting at 9:40, but the race pens were starting to close about 8:40, starting to open, sorry, about 8:40. And so I knew it would be pretty hectic from that point onwards. So I wanted to get there around 8 just so I could have like 40 minutes to warm up before the race starting pens open, and it wouldn't be a rush and everything would be fine. Anyway, we end up leaving at about 10 past 8. We get there about 22, so just as the race pens are starting to open. And at that point, I've still got about an hour, so I'm fairly relaxed. Then I realised that I need to go for a toilet break just before the start of the race. This is like 15 minutes before the start. I get in the queue, and it's at least a 15-minute queue. I was like, this is not ideal. Haven't really warmed up at this point because I didn't really plan that out, and there's not really anywhere to warm up for Norwich. It's all starting pens, and the roads are all closed off, so there isn't really a huge amount of space. And so you couldn't really just run up and down just before the start line to warm up. So I did about a 200-meter warm up, weaving in and out of people, then got into the queue for the toilets, and was really rushed. I was actually in the Portaloo at 9:39. The race started bang on 9:40, so I had to sprint out of the toilet, jump the fence, get into the start line, and literally just start going straight away. It was really not ideal in terms of warming up, being relaxed, being ready, feeling prepared to go into the race. Then, to make matters worse, I decided to get stuck behind the slower people in my group. I didn't really know how far back I was. Turns out I was very far back. And so I was stuck behind the slower versions of the people in my group and just couldn't really get past. There were so many people, it was impossible to get around people. I was running on the curb, I was running on the pavement. Like, for a closed road race, it was really not ideal. So that was a big problem. That slowed me down a lot, especially on the first 5 where it's all flat and downhill. You want to bank some time because the hills are really going to take it out of me. You want to bank some time, but do it sensibly. But I wasn't really banking time, and I wasn't doing it sensibly. I was going quick, then I get stuck behind people, then I go quick again. It really wasn't ideal. Anyway, that happened, and then I started to get about 8k in before I started to feel nauseous. I'm very used to feeling nauseous in a race. Very common for me. I'm very good at sitting at a very high heart rate, and I think my body just realizes when I'm doing that, like, what are you doing? So I was sitting at a very high heart rate. My max heart rate today was 211, which is 2 beats per minute off my max heart rate of all time, 213. And as a 20-year-old man, that's quite impressive considering it should be 220 minus your age, should be your max heart rate. So anyway, that was a bit of a problem, and I started feeling nauseous. But from what I've learned about the Ironman, is throwing up is kind of just a given in these races because you have to fuel, you have to get so much food and weird stuff into you, such as gels and carb mixtures, that you kind of just have to get used to the fact that you're probably going to throw up or feel sick at some point, especially with the heat. It's going to be 26 degrees when I run. So I kind of just said to myself, just deal with it because you're going to have to get used to it for this Ironman. I've felt nauseous before on a lot of my training runs because it's so hard to fuel them with stuff that you can actually digest while you're on the move, especially because you're still going at a decent rate, and eating on the bike, especially the gels, is actually quite difficult. Like holding the gel and not dropping it and not falling off the bike. So I started feeling nauseous, but I was like, I'll just try and keep it under control. And if I do throw up, I'll just throw up. Like, it's not the end of the world. I need to get used to this feeling. Anyway, I got to 9K and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it anymore. I started retching really badly. I think if I had anything substantial, such as some toast, which is what I planned to have for the race, I would have had a big problem and would have actually thrown up. But anyway, my body was trying as hard as it could to throw up, but there was nothing in me to throw up. So I was just retching for the 9K to like 9.5. And then from 500 meters, I felt fine. So I did a sprint finish up the hill, sprinted past people, and finished very strong, to be honest. But the whole race kind of went poorly. Like I said at the start, it wasn't ideal. Couldn't keep a pace I wanted to, and then I was running about 4:30 km pace when I was retching, so that really wasn't ideal. And so it wasn't a perfect race, far from it, but lots of lessons to learn, and I'll take them with me forward. And we'll go again. I haven't really got any races planned from this point on before the Ironman. I'm tempted to do Henley 5K again because I did that last year and I won it. So I'd quite like to try and defend my title. But I really need to see how the 5K training is going while I'm training for the Ironman, because to be honest, I think I'm going to lose a little bit of speed. I'm going to do one speed session a week to try and mitigate that, and I'm going to keep it fast. I'm going to alternate between threshold and speed sessions and intervals. But yeah,